Welcome to Altar of the Demo Gods. If you're wondering what advice from two experienced sales engineers sounds like, it's a little like this.
Welcome back to Altar of the Demo Gods. I'm Keith Wilson, joined by my co-host, John Morton. John, how you doing tonight?
I'm living that dream, Keith. You know me.
Living that dream. It's been a few weeks since we've talked, since we've recorded, like longer than normal. So it's, but in that time we have seen each other. We went and had wings together when you were in Atlanta, so that was nice.
Yeah. Went to a baseball game, drank too much. It's kind of the story of my life.
You went to a baseball game.
Keith, I invited you, Keith.
No, you didn't.
Now you're calling me out on our show. My feelings are hurt. We could have went to the Jim Beam Lounge together.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure that there was an invite there that I probably missed for sure. But before we go too far down that path, I want you to go ahead and bring on tonight's guest.
So we always talk about technical sales and breaking in and doing a good job, and we have a special guest with us tonight, Larci Robertson, who's followed that exact path. So hopefully our listeners can learn something new from a new voice who's been down it. So welcome, Larci.
Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome to the show. And this is my first time meeting Larci too. So John knows Larci. You guys know each other. You worked together in the past. But this is my first time meeting you. So this is going to be, I get to know you this way too. And I get to learn. I'm going to be learning with our audience. This is going to be fun.
It is every time.
So Larci, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I think that kind of what sparked our, friendship. Whenever I met John, I was in the Navy for 10 years. He was also in the Navy. I actually was not in tech sales at the time. So I think we met at a Black Hat booth, if I remember right.
It was. It was
so
Black Hat.
You were at Black Hat and you were there. What was your role at the time if you weren't selling anything?
Yeah, I was a threat intelligence manager at company. So
okay.
I was looking at all the things first time. I think it was my first visit to Black Cat. So it was a whole new, experience for me coming from the military and government jobs because they don't really let us go to those things.
No.
Well, no, they cost money.
Yeah.
You know how much content we have here in following just Larci's path from like Navy badass crypto to vendor, customer side to vendor side. We can just delve into that. But yeah, so like your first experience at Black Hat, first time coming out, meeting with vendors.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. So yeah, my path went from, military government contracting to corporate America. And my story is pretty funny. People don't really get it, but I'll say my first job in corporate America, I was like, oh my God, there's windows. This is great. I'm pretty easy to please. So, I got the windows. This is exciting stuff. I can take my phone to work too. That's really cool.
That's an upgrade.
Yeah, an upgrade in that way. But yes, so threat intelligence, cryptologist in the Navy, threat intelligence, and then tech sales. Much longer. A few years after that Black Hat experience, I don't know that I knew what you did, John, at the time. I'm like, he's just some sales dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun sales dude. Don't get that wrong.
Oh, right.
But yes.
Fun sales dude.
That's what I always joked about that. Being the SE, I get to be like the fun uncle in the sales relationship. Right? The sales guy has to keep asking for money. I just get to be like, can you get a load of this guy? He keeps wanting your money. Let's go have fun.
My fun uncle keeps giving me beer and showing me weird things. Welcome. Yeah.
So you had no idea what technical sales really was or what John did at the time when you first met him. What got you into sales? What made you decide like, oh yeah, this is something I want to try out?
I kind of stumbled upon it going through some interview processes and being introduced to different people, but I was pushed in that direction, not necessarily sales, but I was pushed in that direction by one of my leadership people, which, another military guy said, hey, I think maybe you should go try. We were on a path of, being our company was acquired, so we were being pushed out as far as the security team, majority of us. So we all needed to like find our own paths. And he's, giving some advice. Hey, I think maybe you should try something customer facing, consulting of the like of sorts. So I didn't really listen to him at first because I thought that was, I don't know, just didn't seem like that was something I wanted to do. So I kept.
What was it that made you hesitate? Because I've heard plenty of technical people where they're like, "Oh, I don't want to get in sales." They always have some sort of reason. I'm curious what
That word.
sales.
Yes, that's what it is. I'm not.
Why is it such a bad taboo word? I've been in it now for so long that I forget.
Were you ever sold to?
Yeah, and I mean I get sold to all the time, but I'm thinking in terms. I guess does everybody relate it to like the like worst sales experience of your life? Because sales experiences don't always have to be bad, right?
I think it's just annoying mostly to most people.
Sure.
Well, the salespeople are annoying. Just
Yeah.
like you said, they're just trying to get your money. They're just trying to get your money. Are they?
Yeah, now that I'm kind of reflecting on it too, like coming from the military, so Larci's unique, man. I never get to like geek out on this. I'm like smiling ear to ear. There's so much regimented control in what we do. In the military, you never meet sales reps. Almost never.
Right.
Anything we do now is so radically different to the discipline and control we had. It's not even fathomable that this is a job. Just to be completely candid. So not only when I came out of the military, Larci, you can double down on this. I thought, well, what's most appropriate for me? Maybe I should fall in line and do like a archetypical role of analyst to engineer to director to maybe boss. Sales is not even in that spectrum. What do you think, Larci? I mean, it's alien.
Yes, I was on the path to do that very thing. I thought, this is what I'm going to do. It didn't even cross my mind until someone suggested it even. You go through a few different. I actually initially didn't look for the sales engineer role, and I kind of fell into it because of another job that I was applying to. As far as it was an Intel liaison type position for CrowdStrike, actually. And along that path, I told people that I was doing this, like, oh, no, you should go and do this. And it was basically being, a voice for the analyst, because not a lot of times they have somebody, they do hire like marketing type people, but to have someone that's worked in the space and have that credibility, like go be the voice of our engineers that don't come out of their closets kind of thing. So that was kind of suggested. Those roles never really came to fruition where I was talking to them about. But along that, I went through an interview process with all of the sales engineer, pathway at Sentinel One. And that particular, they're the ones, and I can blame Tommy. Go look him up. Tommy at Sentinel One. He used to be there. I can't remember his last name right now, but
that's probably a
Tommy
good thing,
Huey.
depending on what
Tommy
you're going to
Huey.
say next.
yes, no,
It's a good thing.
We'll
So
call
I
him
don't
right
have
now.
to.
yes,
All right.
it's a good thing.
All right.
He was the one that really.
I'm just sitting in my head. I'm thinking like, oh man, okay, so I'm gonna have to bleep that, then I gotta edit that out.
No,
But okay,
to give
it's
some
good.
retrospect.
Tommy is the one.
Retrospect. His
Yes.
boss
He
actually
told me.
used to be in the
Yeah.
Air Force. His boss was in the Air Force. I worked for him twice now. Great guy. So small
Yeah,
world.
he sold me on this, right? He said
There you
you
go.
would be a great sales engineer. I didn't end up going to work there because they were too busy. I'll just leave it like
Well,
that.
yeah.
That's
Well,
the
let's
way it
not reflect on the negative, because I think you've had quite a successful career up until now. There's always more to be had. What do you think they saw in you? Because I want to tell you what I see in Larci, and maybe our listeners can lean in and be like, I didn't realize that was me. But what do you think they saw in you that kind of were like, you're right for this role? If you were gonna like give 2 or 3 bullet points, and I know this is rough, we're just doing it on the fly.
Yeah.
What do you think they saw in Larci that they thought you'd be perfect for this role?
Mostly is that I can relate to the customer.
Oh yeah.
That's probably the 100% what my most number one asset as a sales engineer is that I can relate to the customer, because I've gone through most of the things that they are dealing with.
Would you
so-
say
I feel like that's a superpower.
Yeah. And
sales?
in that superpower, is it like, just to make it clear for our listeners too, it's not just technical. We're not saying you're like a super, nerd, for lack of a better term. You're not like the most, kudos to you. You are technical, but it's not the technical acumen. Relating to customers means relating that, like exactly that, right? Like you can identify with their situation, what they're trying to accomplish, what they're trying to do, and how they get there. That's what I'm saying.
You can be empathetic to their situation because you've been there before. So it's very easy for you to understand exactly what they're going through, speak their language, and they feel it too. They can feel this person is genuinely with me because they've done it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. And I can speak intelligently and kindly to people. I think that's a pretty good asset too. And
not be annoying, right? I'm guessing you learned that you don't have to be annoying for sales.
Yes, correct. You don't.
That's why I intentionally went there with the nerdy comment. So no disrespect to our fellow nerdy listeners. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, right? Sometimes you got to just acknowledge their pain, right? Empathize with what they're going through, but not come over the top and be like, I have a PhD in astrophysics and I'm going to tell you what's what. We're going to work through this together and we're smart enough to do it. So yeah, there is some sort of balance there that I think you bring, Larci. Every time I've seen you engage with people, even myself, I know probably in certain areas you're smarter than me, but you don't slam it down. You don't like intentionally throw it out. So to Keith's point, it's not annoying. You want to show you have technical acumen in certain areas, as well as identifying with customers and making that relationship happen.
Yeah, I think it was really, really helpful for me as being in the intelligence field in corporate America in CTI, because your number one asset to, as a threat intelligence team is what's going on inside your business and learning what the different parts of the business are doing and talking to all of them and trying to understand what their problems are and what it is that they're doing to, promote the business in whatever that is. Because they're there to make money, right? But learning that stuff. So collaboration and understanding that, hey, we're all in this together, but we're all doing different things. And you do have to talk to each other. So why do I know, how procurement team works, and why do I know how HR works and what they're doing and what they're aligned with? I had to learn that because not every CISO really understands what the intel people do or need. So you have to go and find it. Well, let me go find out what the business is trying to do because I want to align our priorities to that. And you have to actually go out and find it sometimes directly.
My God.
Those parts,
business value selling.
Yeah.
Business value.
You do have to do that on the intelligence team too, because otherwise they don't really know what you're providing to them unless it's literally stated somewhere. And we have a, function everywhere with the IR team, with vulnerability management team, with third-party risk, with GRC, with everything. So we don't get to just stay in our lane. We have to know all the things and we get to touch all the things. And you have to actually go out and communicate with the rest of the business to find out where you can help, where they can help you even. The marketing team has tons of tools, of assets that, they're doing on the outside of your business that as an intel analyst, I need it. I'm like, hey, what are y'all doing? Because we're looking at that stuff too. I know. And because I can, we are using we're using the same legal team, and the legal team's like, hey, we already had somebody address this. So, what's going on? You know what? I need to go talk. Yes. Need to go talk to that team. We do not need to be doing the same work. Right.
You did throw one acronym out there, Larci, CTI. Oh, yeah. What do you mean by? We try to break it down for our listeners. IR and CTI may be new to some of them, but CTI.
Well, particularly because our audience isn't strictly security, right? Where John and I work in security, and pretty much I think every single one of our guests that we've had on has been in security.
It's what we know.
But our audience is broader than that, right? So they may not understand CTI.
Let's take the opportunity to educate them. What do you mean, sure. CTI?
Yeah.
What's fun about that is, too, I didn't know that CTI even existed in corporate America. So cyber threat intelligence. In the Navy, I was a cryptologic technician collector. However, that is CTR. So CTI was actually language, so
interpreters. Yeah.
Interpreters. So I thought when I heard CTI, I'm like, well, I don't do language, so I'm out on that job. But they weren't the same at all.
Funny side note, I actually took the D-Lab, Defense Language Aptitude Battery, and I scored high enough, level 5, to learn Farsi and Mandarin, but story for another day, not to
right.
confuse our listeners.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
CTI,
Can you tell that story in either Farsi or Mandarin?
hell no. I'm not there now, so
That's what I thought.
can you imagine what I might be worth, though, if I knew Chinese? Mandarin Chinese, it'd be amazing. Anyways, not to detract.
There's still time. There's still time. John.
You'd be some
So,
sort of
CTI.
I have a feeling you'd end up as just some sort of criminal overlord or something, John. Like
That would be amazing.
you just
I
become
mean, in all the wrong ways.
yeah, you'd be like an international smuggler of some sort.
I think they call those defense contractors, don't they?
There you go.
Larci
You'd
got
be a
the
defense
joke.
contractor.
Larci got the joke, Keith. So we hit
Well,
on
I'm,
CTI.
I'm the only one in the room that's not former military.
Yeah, good point. So what about IR, Larci? So what about IR?
Incident response. So yeah, incident response has become a big hot topic too, but it's kind of ingrained in the intelligence community as far as like what is an incident and when do we call the boss when something comes up, and that's like they're pulling out all kinds of new ideas of what materiality is, but if you go look up what is considered a critical, incident in the military. It's very, very well explained. There's no question. Like, what does this meet this criteria? Yes or no? Materiality doesn't quite. I don't know what that. Nobody really knows what box that fits in. So that's a whole other thing. But
If I was going to tell, anybody listening right now, what Larci has effectively done is took a very successful and, awarded military career, transitioned to civilian life, realized what you like to do is cybersecurity, and learned how to weaponize that to your advantage in selling software and doing things that are fun. Is that a good summation?
I
There we go. So
helps solve problems still, and by being able to touch the keyboard.
Back to that point, if we recorded it back like 5, 10, maybe even 11 minutes from now, that bad word of sales is not a bad word if you look at it as we're just trying to help people solve problems, right?
Yes.
And if you have fun doing it and you get to sell software and you get paid to do it, that's what we're doing with technical sales. We're just doing the technical aspects of that.
Well, yeah, if you take that consultative approach, right, instead, because I think, when we hear sales, to those that haven't worked in sales or really dealt that much with sales, like our thought immediately goes to used car salesman who's, selling us the car that's about,
I need a Honda Civic
that's fallen apart, right, and trying to patch things up.
They're dancing that big body Benz.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing I always heard from people too, and I probably even said this before I got into sales, is I can't sell something I don't believe in. It's like, okay, well, don't. I mean, I've literally quit companies because I didn't believe in the product that they were selling.
It's crazy. The other part too, I like to bring this up because I think it's a little bit funny. Maybe it's just because it's my personality and I just didn't get it. But when I saw two people coming to, introduce some product to us, I did not see either one of them as a salesperson or a tech salesperson. I saw them as a salesperson. So there was I didn't know the difference. It wasn't apparent to me. So I just didn't get that there was a difference in the two, because they seemed to be maybe this is a good part on them. They worked well together. They knew, the answers. If they didn't know one, they let somebody else. There was no I just didn't see the difference in them, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because one more key differentiator for Larci, and I hope you don't mind all my praise, is you've been brave enough to go even to startups. So startups are unique in the fact that you're value selling. You're not selling something in most cases that are well known. It's not a commoditized product. To my point about the Honda Civic earlier, you know what you're getting with the Honda Civic. You're selling something more unique, maybe a new emerging topic, maybe something very specific. So it's
you're also generally selling into new accounts too, right? Like if you're a Cisco or an IBM or something like that, you have this wide base of accounts that you continue to sell back into. If you're a startup, you generally only have like one product, maybe, a couple products, not a lot, right? So you're very focused on selling this same thing to new people, and it's like you said, non-commoditized, right? I'm sorry to interrupt. Go on.
No. That's exactly where I was going. So like for Larci, I mean, again, we could diverge on this and have Larci on as an 8-time guest talking about the pros and cons of that. But value selling something you believe in, the point you made, Keith, earlier, you got to have that in startups. It's very hard to sell something you don't believe in when people don't even understand what you're doing, right? Larci, would you say, what's your experience been in that
Yes.
realm? Like,
It's educating them. So then you got to take that sales hat off, because if they don't understand what problem you're solving, then you can't sell them anything anyway. Because they have to go back and say, I need budget for this. Tell me why. Well, apparently I have this problem, but I don't really understand it. It's not going to work.
Right.
You're going to have to actually get them to understand the problem and how you can solve for it. And then they have to believe that they even have a problem in the first place.
I want this thing and I don't know why. And it costs $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay. What a terrible situation. Help
So-
me.
Educating, and that was kind of one of the things that has kind of pushed on me too. I know Corey. He pushed like, hey, just take this sales engineering job as if you're an educator. If you can go into it like that because you're so apprehensive about sales in general, it's easier, and you already know you're good at teaching someone, right? You're an educator. I've done it in the past with different roles, and I like doing that. So that was kind of the key in this whole thing too, is like, yes, I do like to teach courses, create the content for it, and then that aha moment to the class going, oh my gosh. And then the best part is them going out and actually doing it, right? And having success stories, and that stuff is cool. And you get to do that as a sales engineer. You're teaching them something. They're going, oh my gosh, they get to go implement it. And then they have a story where, I reduced the risk at my organization by, 80% by doing these things that you told me. That's
As my mother would say, Larci, you just set Keith's world on fire. He's ready
Well,
to
yeah.
start pitching you about, his role. He's an educator, right, Keith?
Yeah, I mean that's what I do, right? So I run, and I was just going to add on to what you said, because
I felt it, Keith. I felt you getting excited and having to calm down for a second.
all sales engineers, at least good sales engineers from the ones that I've seen, inherently have that educator piece of them, right? It was very easy for me to transition from sales to doing education. And now a lot of the courses that I create, when I'm not creating them, I've reached out to other sales engineers to say, hey, help me create this content, because they're great at it. They're able to explain the technical issues in a way that people can understand, explain the problem. They're comfortable with being on camera and presenting and creating slides and all that. So it's a very easy transition between educator and sales engineer. And I think the sales engineers make great educators. At least they should, right? Because like you said, the customer doesn't understand the problem, there's no sale to be had, right? You're not going to get a budget, in the hundreds of thousands, forget that, even tens of thousands, if you don't have a problem that you're trying to solve.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So, teaching corporate America cyber is way different too. Before, I was teaching the Army soldiers how to do basic level intelligence, but they got hands-on, training on different tools and stuff. So it's a little different, problem to solve. So this was a new one too. It's just education around, hey, let me educate you on a problem you don't know even exists.
So I know we don't have a lot of time, right? But I want to ask this tough question for you, Larci, only because I think you can handle it, military trained as you are. When I was in the military, it was easy to at least train the folks under me who were learning nuclear physics and stuff about submarine technology, radical stuff, because they had to learn. Mm-hmm. What do you think about like trying to train business America who doesn't have to be there? Do you have to apply more empathy because, they don't have to pass the test? You're trying to literally help them. What lessons can you say you can pass on to somebody else in your experience about, just engaging with people? Is it the human touch? Is it the correct content? Content? Is it a mix of those things? What do you think?
Man, this is a tough one, because virtual teaching, virtual pitches, virtual demonstrations, when people that you're teaching have their cameras off,
Yeah.
is so
Oh my
hard.
God. Camera
It's
off is a bad
so
sign for me.
hard. It is, and I wish that I could shout this from the rooftops, but it's not just that we think you're not paying attention, but we can't see if you're getting it. So it
Right.
might be we might be completely over your head, and we'll never know, and this goes nowhere. So it's really
Yeah.
hard. So that part I struggle with all the time. But a lot of times I say the thing to do is like I definitely it's not just to catch them whether or not they're paying attention, but ask questions specifically to someone. Hey, what do you guys do for this or whatever? And they'll getting them more engaged seems to be more effective, and I can know where to go next, right? Because if there wasn't a great discovery done to go off of when you're giving a demo or trying to solve their problems and specific to them, you can ramble for hours on
Right.
something probably and get
Like
nowhere.
into a well. So one of the reasons, and Keith will tell you, one of the reasons you are my number one pick to bring you like and chat with these folks in technical sales on Alter the Demagogues is the work you do. I call it like off hours, like how you organize people in like, women in security and things like that. I like firmly believe people learn from people, people buy from people, and those sort of things are the only way, in my opinion, to really get through. Otherwise, you're right. It's like, is anybody out there in the darkness listening to this message? Can you at least acknowledge with a reaction thumbs up? But even that's not enough. So the human aspect, I think, is where you excel. I think Keith and I feel the same way. Keith recently did a prezo at his previous university where he got to meet with humans in person and kind of teach them. So that's kind of the key there. Anyways, didn't mean to put you on the spot, but yeah.
Yeah, I won't do that virtual led instructor training anymore where it's, what you said, it's you talking to a camera, nobody has their cameras on. There's nothing worse than you're in the middle and you see, 30 to 50 people active on the call, sometimes even more, and you ask a question and you get back nothing.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
painful.
You're just like, is anybody
It's
even
like,
here? Did everybody go to lunch?
hey man, if it was OnlyFans where I'm getting paid by the minute, maybe I'm in. But when I'm actually like trying to engage with you and you're not responding,
They,
We're gonna have to put John's OnlyFans link in the show notes for
I
everybody.
was thinking about only feet. Maybe I'll be good at that.
yeah,
I don't know if that's a thing. I just made it up, but it's the
I do.
principle.
I think that in those cases, we should just send them a recording.
Right? Yeah, you're not paying attention
Get
anyways. Just
to it when you have time.
watch the recording. Jesus. Anyways,
Rewatch.
Well, yeah, I mean, we live in such an asynchronous world now when it comes to communication in business with all,
Yeah.
lots of people going remote and all that. But that could be a whole other show is communication.
I think it takes this sort of conversations though, just confronting just being honest about it and like okay, if this is what you're doing, how do we actually ensure you're learning something though? How do we like ensure the efforts are worth it? I think we got to have some evolution based on tech.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be a some sort of change, some sort of innovation or change in remote tech for education. Delivery of education. That's a whole other thing we can get on. I think right now, because we're coming near the end of the show, so this is the part where we summarize what we've talked about, and actually. I think we'll be able to have Larci on for our next episode, which would be nice because we didn't even hit on what we really originally invited her on for, which I'm going to tease that for next week because we're going to talk about social media for sales engineers and building brand to help drive sales. We've hit on this a little bit. I think we touched on that topic with Jaden. A couple times, but that was from an SDR point of view. So I think it'll be really interesting to get Larci's perspective from a sales engineering point of view. So Larci, at this point of the show, what we normally do is we kind of sum up what we've talked about for our audience, 1 to 3 sort of key points of what you heard during this episode or anything that you want to repeat that you think is important. So I'm going to go first. To give you a chance to think about it, and then I'll go ahead and let John go to give you even more time to think about it, because I know I kind of put you on the spot. Then we'll let you go after that. So for me, I want to go back to sales isn't necessarily a bad word, right? And I think there's a lot of tech people, maybe they're listening to this show, maybe they're not, because they see that it's a technical sales type show. So maybe they just said this isn't for me and haven't listened to us. Maybe they're dipping their toe in. Sales does not have to be a bad word. You can be helpful and sell something at the same time that will actually help somebody, that will benefit everybody involved, and you get to make some money off of that. And I think that's a pretty cool sort of thing. But I think there are some misconceptions about how sales works, and a lot of those misconceptions are based on old, outdated practices. And then once you get into it, if you start working with people that are good at it and, work for companies that know what they're doing when it comes to sales, you start to quickly learn, like, oh yeah, it's really not this shady thing. And then educators too. We hit on this near the end, but obviously it really struck a chord with me, where I think being an educator is a great quality for a sales engineer to have, because you should be educating at all points throughout the deal. And I think, John, we've probably hit on that at many different episodes. Yeah. We've probably talked about educating the customer. And I think at the heart of things, we're all educators. We probably all over-explain things if we're not corralled, and if we don't edit ourselves, and that's probably what helps with that. John, what are your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I think on this episode, one of the things I like to reflect on is, take that chance. And like, the world you live in is only so big, and if you can expand that world beyond what you know, there's nothing but value to be had. What do I mean by that? Take that meeting, go to that conference, meet new people, shake hands, kiss babies, learn what other people do. Because sometimes just even opening up yourself to that opportunity is going to introduce you to things in a new life you didn't do or understand, even serendipitously, right? You may find something you totally didn't expect. So, being closed-minded and following like a traditional path may not necessarily, although the easy answer, it's not the right answer. So tech sales is exactly that. You can't go to higher ed. You can't go to secondary school for SEs, as far as I know. There's no sales engineer master's degree that exists. And just meeting people and just being open with what you are and what you want to do may introduce you to new things. That's my net of this sort of conversation tonight. What do you got, Larci?
Yeah, just my, I guess, perspective too is remembering, like, how did I get here? I do have a lot of women ask me, what made you decide to be an SE? And one of the things is, well, I really didn't know what an SE was. So exposure to it was what helped me to, get into that. And I'm being more, I guess, giving more of that story, like what do we do? What is a day in the life of a sales engineer? Not shying away from that word sales, Keith, because you're right. It's not a bad word. But
I get it though. Like, I get the stigma around it for sure.
It is. And really, I guess, owning it. Like, when they see me coming, they don't see me, as that bad person tied with that bad word. Like, I want to be better about being, a representative of what a sales engineer is, and not being that annoying, salesperson. But I think and talking to you guys, like, we do have to really just tell more people about what that is, how, what backgrounds are great for it, because there's lots of them. Even just having some experience in tech anywhere makes you relatable to the customers, because you've been through some stuff. But reflecting on my history of that, this was a good recap to be proud of the path I've gone, and understanding where I can go even. And you're right, there is no master's degree. I look for lots of training for SEs. It's pretty narrow.
We are pioneers in the field.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping that this podcast serves as somewhat of a training tool, right?
Yeah. I like to think I'm like the Benjamin Franklin of that, by the way. I know we're at the end, but if you ever look up Benjamin Franklin's history, he was a pioneer, but he had his quirks. So,
all right, I'm almost afraid to look up the story. I don't want to know. All right. So, John, Larci, thanks for being on. We're going to have you on again next week here on Alter the Demo Gods, where we're going to talk about social media selling as a sales engineer. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find us wherever you find podcasts. If you want to know more, you can go directly to our website at demogodspod.com. That's demogodspod.com. If you have questions for us or think you'd be a good guest for the show, you can email us at demogodspod@gmail.com. So I hope you guys found this beneficial. I hope the information is useful. I hope you enjoyed our guest Larci and that her insight was as useful to you as it was to John and I. And we will see you here next week on Alter the Demo Gods.